Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. Shorter than average video today for a couple of reasons, mostly because, well, it's just a short battle. Not entirely sure why there are only 7 players per team. I mean, I'm sure when Notch24 here in the USS Sim sent me the replay he explained it, but I'm crap and I can't remember. It might be a ranked battle, or it may just be a tier 6 and 7 random battle on the North American server where the server population is lower and tier 6 and above they don't make up the numbers with bots. Honestly, it doesn't matter. That's not really the point. All you really need to know is this battle is going to be over relatively quickly, and you will really need to pay attention because there is so much stupid to fit into this short duration battle that if your attention wanders for even a second, you're likely to miss some of it. So, put your phone on silent and let me have your undivided attention for the next 8 minutes or so, because you're not going to want to miss any of this. I like the USS Sims, by the way. I mean, it's not a great ship, but I like it more for nostalgic reasons than anything else. Because this was a ship that you could originally only buy in a pre-order bundle before World of Warships officially came out. And at the time, this was hands down easily the best tier 7 destroyer in the game. Although if I'm being completely fair, at the time that was more down due to a lack of competition rather than anything particularly good about the Sims at the time, although it was a very, very good, and still kind of is, a very good gunboat. But the march of time has not been particularly kind to the Sims. I mean, the ship itself hasn't changed, it's just that the game has, and now if you were to say great tier 7 destroyer, you'd probably say Haida or Leningrad. And that would probably be it. You'd have to go pretty far down the list before you found the Sims. I mean, I don't think there are any particularly bad tier 7 destroyers, but with the exception of the Haida and the Leningrad, the rest of them are all just kind of... Well anyway, Notch24 is in the Sims, so I guess we're all just going to have to deal with it, aren't we? Plus, even though Notch24 is the star of today's video, it's not really about him. No, there's an entire supporting cast of enemy ships who are probably not going to be too happy about appearing in today's video, but hey, if they can't take a joke, they shouldn't be doing pants-on-head stupid shit in a game that can be played, enjoyed and recorded by members of the general public. Nothing particularly dumb happening yet. Notch is busy flipping the cap and he's going to be successful. He's launched some torpedoes into that extremely suspicious looking smokescreen over there, and he's going to be keeping an eye on it because extremely suspicious looking smokescreens have a surprising habit of launching torpedoes back at you. He is aware that there's an enemy cruiser approaching on the far side of that island. One of those new Pan-Asian cruisers, the Chumphon, except, you know, it's not actually new at all, it's just an Atlanta. But he's going to need to be careful because, I mean, if you're in a destroyer, there's no such thing as just an Atlanta. Atlantas eat destroyers alive. Here come the torpedoes. Notice how he angled himself in order to give himself the best possible chance of avoiding any torpedoes coming from that very angry smokescreen over there. Now he's waiting to see what that Chumphon's going to do. His torpedoes are almost back up. He might be able to sink them as he comes around the corner. But his carefully laid plan is about to go all pear-shaped because the Mutsu has launched a spotter plane, and it has spotted him. Now I don't know if the Mutsu did that because he thought, hang on a second, there's an enemy destroyer up ahead, or if it was just a happy accident. You can draw your own conclusions when we see the Mutsu, shortly after the first major incident. Here it comes. So here is the first moment where Notch24 should have died, and for a couple of reasons. First, that is basically an Atlanta, and it's armed with 12 127mm guns. Very rapid firing 127mm guns. It basically eats destroyers alive. And the Chumphon is not alone. There's also an Anshan with him, which is the tier 6 Pan-Asian destroyer and is basically a Gnevny, and has very powerful guns. So on any other day, Notch24 would have been brown bread here. Just not today. And it's mostly down to that Anshan. Because while it is based on the Gnevny, it is not a Gnevny. Pan-Asian destroyers have deep water torpedoes, and they're called deep water because they run so deep they cannot hit destroyers. And while his first set of torpedoes take out the Chumphon, instead of shooting, given that, you know, Notch is only on 2,000 health, the Anshan just kind of sits there, giving Notch a double strike to go with the first blood that he just scored on the Chumphon. And I have absolutely no doubt that that Anshan player is either on the official forums or submitting a player support ticket right now complaining about the American destroyer captain with the anti-torpedo hacks. I hit him with all 4 torpedoes and nothing happened. So that was pretty dumb. Although, to be fair, he is only tier 6. I mean, he could have free XP'd his way up to the Anshan and didn't actually realise that deep water torpedoes can only hit cruisers, battleships and aircraft carriers. You would have to be spectacularly dumb to be still making that kind of mistake at tier 10 in the Yu Yang, for example. I have seen Pan-Asian destroyer captains at tier 10 in the Yu Yang making exactly the same mistake and then complaining about it in battle chat. It turns out there is no known cure for stupid. Now then, the Mutsu. So this is the guy whose spotter plane spotted Notch earlier. You know, given that 1, his spotter plane spotted Notch earlier, and 2, Notch just torpedoed and sank his 2 teammates right in front of him, you'd think he might have his guns pointing in this direction. You'd think so, wouldn't you? But no. Now, Notch's torpedoes are ready to go. But he needs to make sure those torpedoes hit, because there's no way he's doing 50,000 damage to a Mutsu with his guns alone. So this is a bit of a risk. Well, it should have been a bit of a risk, but it isn't, because only the Mutsu's secondaries are able to fire, because the Mutsu waited until he was 2 kilometers away from an obvious smokescreen before swinging his turrets around. Even so, Notch still takes more damage here than he should have, because he tried to get a bit cocky and take the Mutsu out with just the 1 torpedo launcher, which wasn't enough, so he had to fire a second set. But that's really only minor league stupid. Have a look at the enemy sims. Now, yes, Notch is shooting, because he's spotted. He's not losing anything by shooting back. Except he's not shooting back. In order to be shooting back, somebody else has to be shooting at you first. And the enemy sims is not shooting at him. Notch is in open water, spotted, well inside gun range. He has less than 1/10 of the amount of health that that sims currently has, and the sims isn't shooting at him. The sims is in fact smoking up and hiding. Now why is that? Is it perhaps that he's afraid of getting shot at by the Nelson just a few kilometers away from him, over to the left there? I mean, if that Nelson has 16-inch high explosive shells loaded, it can deliver a biblical bitch slapping to a destroyer like a Sims. Except the Nelson can't do that, because it's on the far side of an island, because it doesn't want to get torpedoed by the Sims. So the Sims smoked up, making it impossible for it to see and shoot at Notch. And then it backs out of its own smokescreen in order to spot the Nelson, which of course means the Nelson, because it's so close, spotted him. The Nelson unloads an almighty bitch slapping with 16-inch high explosive into the enemy Sims, who can't see Notch, by the way, because of the enemy Sims' own smokescreen. So that Sims has not only completely missed the Nelson with all of its torpedoes and lost more than half of its health in the process, but through his own actions, i.e. popping a completely unnecessary smoke, denied himself the opportunity to shoot at and kill Notch, and then backed out of his completely unnecessary smokescreen in order to get himself spotted and bitch slapped by both the Nelson and Notch. And he's gotten absolutely nothing out of it other than a single 5-inch high explosive salvo that barely scratched the paintwork of the Nelson. But wait, we're not finished, because here he comes to finish the job. Oh, where am I going to start with this one? Well, on the face of things, you'd think that, once again, Notch is doomed, because Notch only has 1100 health left. And the Sims, well, he has less health than he had earlier. He's got a lot less health than he had earlier, and it's all his own fault, but he still has nearly 4,000. However, I want to draw your attention to one very, very important factor. Those are armor-piercing shells. I'm going to start talking about numbers here, but I don't want to lose you all, so I'm going to keep it very, very simple. Most Tier 6 and 7 destroyers have 16mm of armor plating. The Sims is no exception to this general rule. 16mm of armor plating is no defense whatsoever against the 127mm high explosive shells fired by destroyers like the USS Sims. But those are not 127mm high explosive shells. They're armor piercing. And if you're firing armour piercing of any calibre at a target with 16mm of plating that's angled at 60 degrees or more, unless you are firing 229mm armour piercing, it's going to ricochet. It's traditional at this point for me to say, how can you fuck that up? But I just explained exactly how you can fuck that up. Oh, but come on, Jingles. You don't expect anybody sitting there with a set square and protractor measuring angles in the middle of a gunfight in World of Warships, do you? No. But I do expect somebody who has the USS Sims, which means they've been playing this game for nearly 7 years, to know when to fire high explosive shells at destroyers. Well, not just destroyers, at anything, really. If it's angled and your armour piercing can't overmatch, fire high explosive. It's not complicated. Or at least I didn't think it was complicated, till I sat down to watch this replay. And finally, although we are back down to minor leagues dumbassery at this point, the enemy Akatsuki, who doesn't really have many options. But one option would be to not sit within spotting range of the smokescreen that you laid, waiting for the USS Helena that you knew was there because you just tried to torpedo him, to sail out of the cover provided by your smokescreen and kill you. Or, you know, don't. It's up to you, it's your ship, do what you like. I'm done at this point. There's only so much stupid I can take in one day. I need to get back to worrying about my house move. Nevertheless, I hope you've been amused and entertained by today's video, and I apologise for any loss of brain cells incurred while watching. In the meantime, as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.